Okay, picture this. You're just 9 years old. Most kids at that age, they're just worried about finishing their homework so they can go play outside. But instead, you find yourself caught in the middle of this massive philosophical tug of war. On one hand, you have your biological father. On the other hand, you have the father of your best friend, a guy who's basically becoming your mentor. Both of these men are strong, highly influential figures in your life. But when it comes to the topic of money, they give you completely, literally opposite advice. Every single day, you have to weigh their conflicting words. So, who would you listen to? Whose path would you actually choose to follow? It's a wildly fascinating dilemma, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Welcome to The Explainer. I am so pumped to have you guys here. Today, we're diving straight into a world-famous source that completely redefines how we think about wealth, education, and success. We are going to explore this incredible tale of two deeply contrasting mindsets. And as always, my goal is to break this down for you step by step so we can really grasp the core architecture of these ideas. We're going to see exactly why two people can work just as hard as each other, but end up in entirely different financial universes. You've probably seen the cover of the text we're drawing from today. It's an absolute classic that has reshaped financial education for millions across the globe. Now, what's really interesting about this source material is that it isn't some dry textbook filled with complicated math or boring stock market charts. Not at all. Instead, it's a story about human psychology. It challenges that old-school conventional wisdom that says going to school and getting a safe job is the one and only guaranteed path to financial freedom. And it does this by placing two vastly different father figures side by side and just letting us observe the results. All right, let's jump right into section 1, Two Dads, Two Views. We're taking a look at their contrasting philosophies. Now, this setup brilliantly illustrates the central paradox of our source. Think about the biological dad for a second. He is highly educated, holding a PhD. Then you've got the mentor dad, a guy who didn't even make it past the 8th grade. But here's where it gets interesting. Both of these men were incredibly hardworking, and both actually earned a really good income. Yet when you look at their financial states, it tells a totally different story. The highly educated father constantly struggled just to pay his monthly bills, while the 8th grade dropout went on to become one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that academic education and a strong work ethic, while they're obviously valuable, they do not automatically equal financial success. There's a missing ingredient. And we aren't just talking about a slight difference in their savings accounts either. We're talking about entirely different legacies. The biological father, despite his PhD and his high salary, unfortunately passed away, leaving behind unpaid bills. The mentor father, the dropout, left tens of millions of dollars to charities, his church, and his family. This massive contrast goes to show that a steady paycheck alone just doesn't build generational wealth. It is the mindset operating behind that paycheck that truly matters. Moving on to section 2, attitudes towards money. This is a massive clash of beliefs. So the biological father, who the author ultimately calls the poor dad, he firmly believed that the love of money is the root of all evil. He looked at the pursuit of wealth with a lot of suspicion. But the rich dad, he believed that the lack of money is the root of all evil. He saw poverty and constant financial struggle as the true sources of stress and hardship in life. So one viewed money as this corrupting force that you had to handle really cautiously, while the other viewed it as a powerful, necessary tool for a good life. This isn't just semantics, guys. This was literally the operating system for how they lived their lives. And this fundamental difference in philosophy completely bled into their everyday language. Take the phrase, "I can't afford it." The poor dad used this statement all the time whenever he faced something he wanted to buy but didn't have the cash for. The source material makes this really profound observation about that specific sentence. It points out that saying, "I can't afford it," is a statement of finality. It effectively shuts down your brain. It lets you completely off the hook. You say it, you feel a little bit of sadness or resignation, and bam, your mind just stops working on the problem. It is essentially mental laziness. But contrast that approach. The rich dad absolutely forbade the phrase, "I can't afford it," in his house. No way. Instead, he demanded the use of a question, "How can I afford it?" Do you feel the difference there? A statement shuts the brain down, but a question forces your brain to kick into high gear. It forces you to search for answers, to get creative, to think about ways to generate value or income to actually achieve your goal. This one simple shift in language is arguably one of the most powerful takeaways from this whole explainer. It turns you from a passive victim of your wallet into an active, engaged problem solver. That brings us to section 3, education and employment. It's the classic employee versus owner mindset. Their ultimate career divergence comes down to this one idea. The poor dad constantly advised, study hard so you can find a good company to work for. His focus was entirely on being a great employee, climbing that corporate ladder, and finding security under someone else's umbrella. The rich dad, however, told his son, study hard so you can find a good company to buy. Let that sink in for a second. One aims to be the employee, the other aims to be the owner. One focuses on generating a safe paycheck, the other focuses on acquiring the very systems that generate the paychecks. Okay, and that brings us to one of the most controversial yet totally crucial points in the entire source material: how they define assets and liabilities. The poor dad proudly claimed, like honestly most people do, that his house was his biggest investment and his greatest asset. But the rich dad flat out stated, my house is a liability. Why? Well, because the rich dad's definition of an asset is incredibly simple. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. A primary residence, with its mortgage, property taxes, and constant maintenance, that drains cash. It doesn't generate it. This redefined understanding completely upends traditional financial advice. So let's quickly summarize what we've learned about this first approach, the mindset of scarcity. It's a mindset that deeply believes the government or your employer is ultimately responsible for your well-being. It places the highest possible premium on a safe job above almost everything else. It uses definitive, self-defeating language like, I will never be rich, and it focuses entirely on the security of the next paycheck rather than actually building long-term wealth. The source material argues that this mindset is a self-fulfilling prophecy. By constantly prioritizing safety and dependency, you almost guarantee a life of financial struggle. Now, flip that around and look at the mindset of abundance. This mindset believes in total, complete financial self-reliance. You don't wait around for a company to save you, you save yourself. It involves a deep understanding of how the rules of money actually work behind the scenes, like the power of taxes and corporate structures. And notice the third point here, this mindset actively maintains a wealthy identity. Even after a terrible, devastating financial setback, the rich dad would say, I am a rich man, and rich people don't do this. He knew that being broke was temporary, but his identity as a wealth creator was permanent. Finally, this mindset is relentlessly focused on acquiring real, cash-flowing assets, not just grinding for a higher salary. All right, Section 4, the crucial decision. This is the real turning point. Just imagine the crazy internal conflict for a kid. Do you follow the man who shares your blood, the man who has a PhD, who is super respected in the academic community, who tells you to play it safe, get good grades, and get a secure job? Or do you follow the 8th grade dropout who is quietly building a massive empire, who challenges basically everything you hear at school, and who tells you that the conventional path is a complete trap? Which father's advice would ultimately shape this young boy's entire financial destiny? Well, at the tender age of 9, the author made a life-altering choice. He actually chose not to listen to his highly educated biological father when it came to money. Instead, he chose to learn from his best friend's father, the rich dad. And this one single decision sparked a massive 30-year journey of financial re-education. From age 9 all the way up to age 39, he systematically unlearned the scarcity mindset of the middle class and completely adopted the abundance mindset of the wealthy. And if there is one defining lesson he picked up during those 30 years, it is the absolute crucial distinction between being broke and being poor. According to the source, broke is simply a temporary financial state. Anybody can go broke, right? Businesses fail, investments turn sour, life happens. But poor? Poor is an eternal state of mind. You are only truly poor if you surrender your mindset to scarcity, if you start saying, I can't afford it, and if you just give up the belief that you can change your circumstances. True financial literacy isn't just about doing the math. It is entirely about a massive mindset shift. So let me leave you with something to really chew on today. We've seen how the words we use and the thoughts we harbor can literally dictate our financial destiny. Take a moment and evaluate your own internal dialogue. Are your daily words and thoughts setting you up for temporary struggles that you can totally overcome? Or are they quietly programming you for eternal poverty? Remember, the choice between the rich dad and the poor dad isn't just some neat story from a book. It's a choice we all make every single time we look at our bank accounts. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next one.